Hello, my name is Evan.
I'm Jonathan.
And you are listening to the Tackling Basketball Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it. Pretty packed agenda today, as always, and hopefully a pretty fun agenda. So let's get right into our Goat and Dick segment for this week. Jonathan, who you got as your GOAT?
You know, my GOAT, because I'm trying to avoid the NBA Finals this week, for this segment at least, because we're going to be talking about it pretty frequently. So my GOAT for this week is the Buffalo Bills, who recently broke grounds on a new stadium. $1.5 billion stadium. Looks very nice.
Congratulations.
And like right across the street from their previous stadium, so no one's going to be upset with displacement. But it's just going to be nicer amenities, nicer area. So, yeah, big win for them.
And most importantly, still uncovered. So snow games in Buffalo are still a thing.
That is huge. I love it.
My go-to this week, also staying away from the NBA Finals, is Liam Hendriks. Liam Hendriks is a pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. He was diagnosed with cancer back in January of 2021, began treatment, and over this weekend, he pitched in and got the win in his first game back coming off of cancer. So just kind of a happy story there. Congrats to Liam Hendriks. Awesome to see him coming back, be healthy, and get back to his former self, which is being a very, very good pitcher in the MLB.
Yeah, without a doubt. Love a comeback story. All right. Now for my dick of the week, and that would be the Lakers front office. For the main reason of an announcement came out recently that they are going to pay Austin Reeves, or more accurately, they were willing to match any offer for Austin Reeves up to 4 years, $100 million. And nothing to say about that contract right now, nothing to say about whether or not they should do that. But the fact that it was released for a restricted free agent only means negatives for the Lakers. Because now that it's public information, they either lose Reeves or they're paying their maximum offer. And if I were trying to view into this situation, I would have probably assumed that it came from Reeves' own agent after a conversation with the Lakers front office. But a lot of people are sort of assuming it was the opposite, where they're almost like the front office is trying to please Reeves in this process. Please him with the offer. Like, there's no reason to wait. There's no reason to, like, force yourselves into this sort of a weird situation where now you have to pay your max bid and, why are you even exercising a restricted free agency then? Why aren't you just extending him? I don't know.
Yeah. Good old Lakers.
Yep.
For my dick of the week, I have John Fisher, who is the owner of the Oakland A's. And sorry, I couldn't help myself. Had to go MLB twice this week. Currently, the Oakland A's here in June have 12 wins. They are on pace to have the worst single-season record in MLB history by a pretty significant margin.
Love it.
They also have the worst run differential through this many number of games in MLB history, and more than likely, it is all in order to get them to move to Las Vegas. The owner is using the horrible attendance of this team as justification to move to Las Vegas. There are also other things going on, like the city wouldn't approve a new stadium for the A's, which is also a problem.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty well-confirmed theory at this point that the owner has made the team horrible to even further drive down attendance numbers to expedite the move to Las Vegas. And screw him for doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Oakland doesn't deserve this. The Raiders already fled. The Warriors already fled. I know the Oakland Coliseum, the stadium that the A's play in, is not good at all. It needed to be demolished 20 years ago. But to make your team horrible, to get fans out of the stadium to justify a move, is such a piece of crap move, especially for a billionaire owner. It's insane. So he's just an absolute dick. I don't like him. The MLB will never institute a salary cap because at this point the margin is just so wide, it would be a detriment to the game. but they need to institute a salary floor so that you get rid of owners like this. He is paying the team $50 million. That is a fraction of NFL teams, of NBA teams. I mean, shit, there are some MLS teams currently who have a higher salary than the Oakland A's, a professional baseball team. So if I was an MLB owner, and they're never going to do this because they like having a team they know they can beat up on. But if I was an MLB owner, I would vote him out of the league. It's ridiculous at this point.
The rough part is that I don't think a salary floor would fix it if they get the move to Las Vegas, because their market goes way through the roof and he's able to afford whatever he wants. But it's just a little bit of a scumbag move in order to try and force his way out when, like, in the end, he ultimately has the power to make that decision anyway. He's just trying to make himself look better, and in the process, like, devaluing the entire league's integrity.
Yeah, and for extra context, the Oakland A's pitching staff has given up 418 runs at this point in the season. The next highest in runs given up is the Colorado Rockies at 330.
Yeah.
So almost 100 more runs than the second worst team. The A's are just a travesty at this point, which sucks because they're such a storied franchise. They've won a lot of World Series. The fans in Oakland are very good fans. They deserve better than this. So, screw John Fisher. After my rant for the MLB, we'll shift over to NBA rumors. Oddly enough, over this weekend and even today, a lot of NBA stuff has come out, which has been convenient for us.
Yeah.
First one being that apparently Kyrie Irving is trying to recruit LeBron James to Dallas. So, Jonathan, what do you think about that? Do you think that could even happen, that Dallas has the pieces to trade for Bron? Do you think Bron would do it?
I think the only thing more funny than the idea of LeBron James to Dallas right now is Kyrie asking for it.
Yeah.
It's just so out of left field. And it's hard to imagine. It's hard to think of what to think other than no. I don't think that this is the right move for the Mavericks organization at this point. I think that, first of all, they need to get rid of Kyrie, at which point this immediately sort of falls apart. And second of all, they need to focus on building around Luka Doncic as their primary distributor, which, again, LeBron to Dallas doesn't aid in that at all. I think it's horrible team building if it does happen. It'll cost them a lot, and beyond that, it's just a funny notion to me. I don't think anybody wins in this move.
No, I mean, the Mavericks would likely make playoffs next year, but I don't think it would immediately make them a top contender in the West, because LeBron is no longer the number one guy in any scenario. He knows it. Everybody knows it. Luka could become that guy, but we've seen LeBron and Kyrie together, and it worked on the Cavs, but in a way it also, there were plenty of games where they were at odds with one another, and if anything, Kyrie Irving has become even more selfish of a player than he was back with the Cavs. So there's no point to this move. LeBron's not going to want it. Yeah. I also don't think the Mavericks have the pieces the Lakers would require to get this, because they
could do it. It would just cost them way too much.
Yeah, so there's just no point. And LeBron's happy in LA.
And it's a one-year deal, too. It's a one-year contract. So they are betting on the fact that they will be able to prove to LeBron that they can contend the next year, which doesn't even matter to LeBron because he wants to play with his son.
Yeah.
So you are literally just buying him for 1 year. And then if you want him the year afterwards, you got to draft Bronny. At which point, why are you trading for him right now?
Yeah. Exactly.
LeBron isn't moving. If he is, it's because he retired. So.
Yeah. Now over to our rumor from this weekend, which was interesting. It was sent out on Twitter that Damian Lillard has listed his house in Portland on the market for sale. And as the resident Blazers fan will hop on this. Looked into it a lot. There's actually like no confirmation that he actually listed his house. So there's more than likely someone just kind of started this out of nowhere. And obviously, as Blazer fans, that's what we're hoping is the case. What is confirmed, though, is that Dame is actually building a house in the Portland area. So if he did list his house, there's within reasonableness that he could have listed it because he's ready to move into the house he's building.
Yeah.
So this idea that like Blazers fans need to be freaked out by this, I don't think so. I've never been one to take much stock in guys listing their houses.
Yeah.
For some reason, people have been paying attention to it always. Like, people freaked out in 2019 when Aaron Rodgers hired cleaners to go clean his house in Green Bay, and everyone was like, "Oh, this means he's going to sell his house and he's going to move and he's getting a trade out of Green Bay." And he came on the Pat McAfee show and he was like, "No, I haven't been there in 2 months. My house needs cleaned." And then in 2020, they freaked out when he hadn't paid his bill at the club in Green Bay that he attends, and he came on the Pat McAfee show again and said, "I was out of the country for 2 months. As soon as I got back, I went and paid it." It's people put stock in really dumb things. I think this is one of those times. It could also just be people know that there's a tension situation there right now, and they're trying to take advantage of that and make headlines.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't really think Blazers fans need to be worried about it. I know we chatted about this, and you think the Blazers should take the road of rebuild and trading Dame. I would love to see them try and compete with Dame Lillard right now. I think our buddy Micah summarized it the best when I chatted with him. He said that he would be sad to see Dame go if we decide to trade him, but he would be happy to see that the Blazers have at least made a decision and are picking a direction. And that's where I'm at this point, too. Like, I don't want Dame to be traded, but at the end of the day, the Blazers just need to figure out what the hell they're doing and pick one way or the other, whether they're going to rebuild or go out and try and compete. And it's a little frustrating that it's taking this long. We've been sitting in the dark for so long, and it's killing Blazers fans mentally of not knowing next year whether we need to mentally prepare for a rebuild where we're going to suck or potentially competing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I don't think that there's any stock that should be placed in the house for sale, even if it were like confirmed. I mean, he could just be buying a different house.
Yeah.
He could. There's no reason for him to sell this house because he expects to be traded. That makes no sense at all. Now, I also say, like, I do support the idea of trading Dame, but because they're a small market franchise who really needs to, like, focus on their own, like, chemistry and their loyalty in order to keep free agents and attract free agents, I think the only way they do it is if Dame asks for it. I think that's the best case scenario for the Blazers, is if Damian Lillard asks for a trade, because now they have this, like, straight path forward. But I'm not sure that's going to happen, so really you just got to commit to, like, sell the 3rd overall pick, sell Ant, push for a chip, even though I don't think you can get enough back. Just, you can't go down the road you're on right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, over to our third and final rumor, and this has been going on for a couple weeks now. The Ja Morant suspension situation, of course, hot topic in the NBA and really in all of sports right now. ESPN keeps talking about it. I would like to say kudos to Adam Silver for coming in when asked the question, essentially saying, I don't want to take away from the NBA Finals right now by delivering the suspension or by talking too much about it.
Yeah.
He, of course, had to give a bit of a background to it a little bit when asked about it, but I like that from Adam Silver of saying the focus should be on the NBA Finals, on these two teams, not what's going on with some dude outside of that right now. But with what Adam Silver said, Jonathan, what do you think Ja's punishment is going to be here? How many games do you think he's going to be suspended? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, it is going to be difficult for the league to come up with a good number of games, given that he was suspended last year for, I think it was 8 games, for a very similar thing. And now you look at it, and if an 8-game suspension wasn't sufficient, will any number of game suspension be sufficient? I I anticipate that the league will go for a traditional suspension. I've been hearing the number 50 tossed around a lot.
Wow.
Which is a lot. You would certainly have the NBA PA fighting against it. But it also makes some sense. You need a certain degree of severity in order to hope to change his mind. If I were the league, and I'm not even sure that they can legally do this, I'd need to look into their bylaws and whatnot, but I would format it something like the following, where you have an 82 game suspension for John Morant. That's a full season. But completion of certain milestones towards reparation will deduct from that. So 16 game deduction for each of the following. I would say completion of a handgun safety class, which if it doesn't matter what side of the fence you fall on, should we not allow guns. If you have a gun, you need to be safe with it. And Ja clearly was not being safe with it in that video. Finger on the trigger, pointing it every which way in a car.
Yeah.
And
in a strip club.
Yeah, and in a strip club. You need to, at a minimum, you need to be safe when you're going to be handling it. Then I would say completion of, several therapy sessions by a licensed therapist chosen by the league. I think that there is probably some things that we don't have a lot of insight into. I mean, we only know so much about a person's life, but it's talking that through with someone who knows what they're doing could further his ability to handle this situation in the future. And then my third thing to deduct 16 games from that suspension would be, or 16 more games, 16 per each of these things, would be attendance of leadership seminars, sort of aimed at teaching him, listen, man, you're a huge influence on the next generation. And that's what this entire policy around the NBA centers around, where we're allowed to suspend you for things that you don't even get in trouble legally with. If it reflects badly on the league, and if it reflects badly on this generation that we are inspiring, then we have the right to take action against you and suspend you and do this and that. So sending him through these seminars to actually teach him what he is teaching the next generation, I think would be a huge step. And I don't know if a number of games is the right move, no matter how few or many. So incentivizing growth, I think, is what the league should do. I'm anticipating just a flat 50 or something, but
yeah, that's something that they can legally do. I think that would be awesome, and I think that would benefit John Morant, because what everybody wants at this point is he obviously needs to be punished, but we also want him to be better. He's a great talent in the NBA. We don't want him. Worst case scenario is for him to do something stupid and lose his life. But we don't want him to end up in prison. We don't want him out of the league, because Ja is amazing. He's a great talent. We love watching him.
Or even just continuing to be a bad influence.
Yeah.
We just want him to be a star that people can look up to.
Yeah, exactly. So on my side of it, things that I've been hearing, and again, we don't know if what Jonathan just laid out is even allowed under the league bylaws. Something that I've been hearing, though, is kind of what Jonathan alluded to. There is no precedent set for this situation. A lot of times when you look at how many games people will be suspended, if they take PEDs or if they're caught using marijuana, it's last guy who did it was suspended 10 games. So guess what? This guy gets a 10-game suspension because we have precedent. Adam Silver and the league office don't have that in this case, so they're really flying by the seat of their pants here trying to figure out how many games to suspend this guy.
Yeah.
And then you also have the aspect of, if you suspend him for too many, the NBA PA would like a 50-game suspension. NBA PA is going to come and appeal that, and who knows? I don't
think the number matters there. I think the NBA PA is going to appeal anything. They fight for their players, and they should.
Within reason. But something I was hearing, I believe it was Chris Bouchard from ESPN who mentioned this, was doing a 17-game suspension, which at first seems not that drastic. It also seems like a really random number. Mm-hmm. But under the new league collective bargaining agreement, players have to play in 65 games to be eligible for yearly awards.
Oh, wow.
And at 17 games, Ja could play in the max of 64. And Ja's contract is based heavily around incentives for making all NBA teams, winning MVP, winning league awards.
Wow.
And again, I'm not sure if that's the route that the commissioner would want to take. I mean, if they suspend him for more than 17, he's missing out on all of that stuff. It would just be if they suspended him for 17, it's a very clear middle finger to Ja of saying, we intentionally want you to miss these games as well as lose out on all of your incentives for eclipsing those milestones. But the other reason I almost feel like Adam Silver and the league office would want to go as few games as possible would be you don't want to remove the Grizzlies from the equation in the West.
Yeah.
Like, just from a league standpoint...
They've been better without him the last 2 years.
I know, it's kind of weird. But, I mean, just from a league standpoint, like, you want the Grizzlies to be competitive. You want them to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
And taking Ja out for a substantial amount of time very well could mean that the Grizzlies don't make playoffs.
Right.
So, I don't envy Adam Silver for having to make this decision. This is, I think, probably in terms of figuring out how long to suspend players for, probably one of the most difficult decisions that I've actually paid attention to, at least. Probably next to the Houston Astros sign stealing scandal in the World Series. I mean, this is just...
Which wasn't punished enough.
Yeah, exactly. Frickin' Rob Manfred.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Adam Silver also said during that question that, like, new evidence had come to light, which I don't know what that means. I mean, outside of the video, so that could mean that he's suspended for even longer if it winds up being some bad stuff. So we'll have to see. Regardless, though, Ja is screwing himself over big time here. If I was a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, I would be cussing him out every which way right now because this is just ridiculous. He's supposed to be the leader and the star of that team, and now he has put your entire next season in jeopardy.
And the entire locker room. Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like right now.
Yeah, I would want him gone.
Yeah.
If I was a Memphis Grizzlies player, I'd be going into the front office saying, I know he makes us better, but we can trade him for somebody or for another person that also makes us better, and he wouldn't be suspended for half the season. So.
Yeah. And he wouldn't leave us with these big, like, distrusts in the locker room.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I anticipate, I'm guessing with Adam Silver saying that he didn't want to announce the suspension during the NBA Finals, that probably means a day or two after the finals are over, we'll get the suspension. So I would assume in the next week or two, we're going to know exactly how long Ja is going to be out and have to go from there. But segueing then into the NBA Finals themselves, of course, we got series tied now with Miami Heat coming away with a 111-108 victory in Denver last night. So series tied, heading down to Miami for games 3 and 4. Jonathan, how are you feeling so far through 2 games?
Still good. I still think that we are the better team, that we are coached well enough, and that we are good at responding to adversity. So being punched in the mouth a little bit this game, I think, will be a good motivator for the team that looked like they lacked for motivation this last game. They fell a little bit flat. They clearly, Jokic was doing everything he could to try and lift this squad up, and everyone else was putting in really low effort on the defensive end and on rebounding and all of the battles that we needed to win. I think I did underestimate Coach Spo. Like, everyone knew he was a good coach. I knew he was a good coach, but he made some really impressive adjustments. I don't think that, like, his adjustments and his player personnel alone were enough to bolster that team to this win. I think that it did require still the Nuggets sort of coming out a little bit flatter and sort of apathetic, as well as, won't get into it too much, but a little bit of poor refereeing, I believe. But yeah, overall, the Heat did outperform the Nuggets this game, and I do believe as long as the Nuggets, like, take this motivation and sort of bounce back, that we're going to take the next 2 in Miami, that they are fully capable of doing that. And as a person who has a betting segment on a podcast, I almost like it because the odds have shifted pretty heavily towards the Heat. It's not in favor of the Heat anymore at all, but like we are getting better lines for the Nuggets now. So look out for the a couple segments from now. You might catch a few Nuggets bets from me, but yeah. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm still fairly confident the Nuggets will be able to take this. Obviously, liking even more now my 6-game prediction here. I think the Heat will be able to take another one. I would not be surprised if we return to Denver for Game 5 with a 2-2 series split. Miami's also been very good at home as well, but it's been interesting. I mean, because really it was this last night. Everybody on the Nuggets letting the team down except for Jokic. I mean, Jamal had a big second quarter and helped bring them back after being down in the first, but then kind of fell flat in the second half. And I mean, like we mentioned, Nuggets are now 0-4 when Jokic drops more than 40 points this postseason. So it's anytime Jokic has to step up because the rest of his team is failing him, the Nuggets don't win. And it's obviously not a knock against Jokic. Yeah. It's just, I mean, he needs the rest of his team to step in and help him. And last night that didn't happen. Obviously, the Heat can't count on that happening in every single game. I wouldn't count on that happening in the next game for sure, because like you said, the Nuggets tend to bounce back once after they lay an egg. And last night wasn't even laying an egg. They lost by 3 points. Yeah. So, I mean, I still feel good about the Nuggets' chances.
Something I like about Coach Spo, because we just mentioned like Nuggets aren't doing well when Jokic is the primary scorer, and he was asked that in the interview, like post-game press conference yesterday, and he interrupted the question to say, "That's a stupid fucking question." Like, of course we don't prefer just letting Jokic score. What we saw this game was not the Heat adjusting to say, "Oh, we want Jokic to score." Rather, it was the Heat adjusting to say, we don't want to allow other players to score. And when you sort of like lock down everyone else on defense and sort of force Jokic into, not even forcing him into being the primary scorer, because you still want to defend him. You can't just give him 2 points every time down the court. But when Jokic cannot rely on anybody else, he's not enough to overcome a Heat team that is very deep and very well coached. No one in the league is. So being able to defend every position well is exactly what the Heat want. It's not allowing Jokic to score. It's just defending everybody well.
Yeah. So now through 2 games, who have been kind of the big disappointments so far from either team? I mean, obviously last night you could probably name several guys from the Nuggets who you felt disappointed in. But combined effort for the first 2 games from the Heat and the Nuggets, who do you think has not performed up to the par they need to be performing at?
I got one for each team. Super obvious one for Miami is Gabe Vincent.
Yeah.
I mean, he has how many total points this series? One moment, please.
He had 23 last night.
Gabe Vincent?
Yeah.
Sorry, Caleb Martin.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yikes. One really obvious person. Caleb Martin, who had 3 points last night's game and 3 points in the previous game when he was like the leading scorer for the Heat last series, I believe, and just 6 points through 2 games on pretty like piss poor efficiency, and that is a point of fear for the Nuggets, maybe, that he might be able to step up and be what he was against the Celtics against us, because if that happens, then we are in trouble, based on how the rest of the Heat team is playing. But he has certainly not looked like the same player. And then for the Nuggets, my big disappointment would be KCP, who has been bad on offense in both of these games, just horrible efficiency from every distance, as well as been horrible on defense this last game. Just really low effort. Two like late fourth quarter fouls on 3-point attempts that turned the entire game. Like, he almost single-handedly lost this as one of the focal points of our defense. Lost us the game on defense, and there's just no excuse for that. We need him to like be better, play like he's been here before, because he has, and just yeah.
I would pick Caleb Martin from the Heat as well. That's a very obvious one. Not really sure there's anyone else to necessarily point out. I mean, the Heat starters up to this point have been pretty solid. I'm still a bit confused as to why Kevin Love started last night, but it is what it is.
I'm confused, too, as to why so many people thought that was a brilliant, like, fix, and that was, like, what pivoted the Heat to the win. And I'm like, he didn't play poorly, but he also was 2 of 9 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, like, pretty, like, middling at best on offense. He did okay on defense, asked to sort of step into this role to, like, cover Jokic, which Jokic took advantage of, but then it opened up Bam Adebayo to pick up other defenders and cover the paint from them, which was a huge change, I think. But I don't think that was because of Kevin Love. I think that was because of Spo.
Yeah, for sure. But my guy that I'd also call out KCP. He's been a disappointment. But Michael Porter Jr. Has been incredibly inefficient so far. First game, he had 14 points, which for Michael Porter Jr. is probably about what you can expect on a good night. But he had 5 last night, and in the first game, he shot 2 of 11 from 3. Last night, he was 2 of 8 from the field and 1 of 6 from 3. He just hasn't been taking good shots. He's been missing all over the place. Last night, watching a little bit, it almost seemed like the first game had made him timid to take shots because he had shot poorly in the first game and he was passing up a lot of shots. But I mean, again, last night, the shots he was taking, he was still freaking missing.
Yeah.
So the Nuggets are definitely going to need him, obviously, along with, Jamal and Gordon, to become, more consistent with scoring. And because, they can't keep having nights where MPJ, Gordon, and Murray don't even combine for the amount of points Jokic scores. It's not going to win you many basketball games with the way the Nuggets play. So MPJ needs to figure it out, or he needs to become a facilitator, which is not his thing, and start letting Murray and Gordon take more of those shots, because he clearly isn't sinking them right now.
Yep. I mean, the starters for the Nuggets last game were right around 30% from 3, which is just not where they've been ever. Not acceptable. And like if you're like I said, Caleb Martin is a little bit of a fear for the Nuggets if he picks it up. The shooting from the Nuggets starters is a fear for the Heat. Like, if they're able to get back to what they have been doing and what they should continue to do, now like the series sort of shuts down a little bit. So I'm hopeful that they can get it going again. It's a big stage, bright lights. The team, not even just the players, the team itself has never been here before. So hopefully they can sort of overcome those demons. But if they do, I think that this series wraps up pretty nicely for the Nuggets.
Yeah. Now, though, we will transition away from the NBA and over to the NFL. We are going to continue our NFL division predictions here. Last week, we did the AFC West. This week, we will now be doing the NFC West. So, Jonathan, if you want to kick us off with who your NFC West division winner is going to be.
Yeah, of course. So, for my division winner, I actually have the Seattle Seahawks, which, if you've been paying attention to our previous podcasts, you will note that I did not have this pick, at least originally. I think I did pivot to them in my second, like, way too early prediction. But after like looking into all of these teams in the NFC West a little bit more, sort of gaining a little bit more perspective on the players that they've lost, the ones who have aged, the ones who have been brought in, considering the draft as well. The Seahawks absolutely killed this draft. I don't think there's another reasonable choice in my mind, other than, like, an argument can be made for the 49ers, but for me it comes down to quarterback as well there, because the team is very great. It's well coached as well, but I don't trust any of the quarterbacks. I still am not high on Brock Purdy. I think he's a product of the team and the coaching, and I think that he'll regress a little bit this year as teams sort of figure that out. But to sort of go through the Seahawks schedule here, week 1, home versus LA, that's an easy win. Week 2, at Detroit, easy win. Carolina Panthers win, New York Giants win, bye week. Going into the bye 4-0. And then I actually have them eating 4 quick losses to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are looking, who also had a really good draft and are looking to sort of improve on the youth that they had this last season. I have a loss at home against the Cardinals, which is a huge shock to most people. I do think that this highly hinges on Kyler Murray being healthy at this point, but I think that a lot of this roster is a little bit underrated, especially the offense is really potent, and the Cardinals just have a weird knack for being good in Seattle for some reason. Lost to the Browns, lost to the Ravens, and then wins versus Commanders, Rams. Rams are not looking nearly as good this year as I thought they were initially. We'll get more to that later in this segment. Win to the 49ers, loss at Cowboys, win at 49ers. We would really benefit from a graphic here. And then closing out the season 3-4 for a total record of 11-6. Big highlights here, obviously that loss against the Cardinals, and then sweeping the division outside of that. I have them as a pretty dominant force here, I think.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like you hinted at with the argument for the 49ers, I'm taking that argument. I have the 49ers as my NFC West division winner at 11-6, going 4-2 in the division. I have them losing week 2 at the Rams, week 5 at the Cowboys, week 6 at the Browns, week 7 at the Bengals, or at the Vikings, week 8 versus the Bengals, and then week 12 at Seattle. Yes, quarterback is a concern for the 49ers. However, the rest of their team is so dominant, and like we saw last year through the entirety of the season and the postseason, I think the rest of the team is good enough to compensate for those quarterback struggles. Whether it's Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, I think they are able to do enough of what the 49ers need them to do to go out and win football games. That offense is stacked. Their defense is stacked. Kyle Shanahan is probably a top 3 coach in the NFL right now. It's just a very good team. So I really like the odds for the 49ers there. I do see them struggling kind of the first half of the season a little bit because of that quarterback factor. But again, like we saw last year, they struggled a little bit, and then once they found consistency at quarterback and plugged in the guy that was going to be the guy for them, they figured it out and they started steamrolling people. So I see that happening again for the 49ers. Sure, teams could figure them out, I suppose, but I also think Kyle Shanahan is such a good coach and so intelligent, he'll be able to stave that off quite a bit through his game plan. So I have the 49ers as my division winner.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are my hardest team to pick in this division, mainly because, like I said, I don't trust the quarterback, and I trust everything else about them. So for me, they are my second best team in this division, but far enough back that I actually have them missing playoffs with just a 7-10 record. I think that they're going to. I don't think that the coaching will be figured out. Excellent coaching for that team, but I do think that Brock Purdy has some obvious weaknesses, as do all of the other quarterbacks on this roster if they wind up switching away from him. And teams will learn how to exploit those weaknesses in ways that are not coverable by good coaching. So a couple of big highlights here. They split against the Rams and the Cardinals, winning their home games in those. They lose both versus Seattle. Lose to every team that makes sense, like the Eagles. That's a loss. I think the Bengals and the Cowboys are fairly obvious losses. And then losses as well against the Browns and the Ravens and Commanders, actually, who I'm excited for that division, because I do think that the Commanders have a lot of hope in this league this year, with Sam Howell, who I think we've talked about on this podcast before. I'm a strong believer that he is going to be a really good quarterback in this league and capable of elevating a team that showed some promise last year. So not what 49ers fans want to hear, but I have them missing playoffs. And spoiler alert for the other two teams in this division, they're the second best team. So you can guess what's going to happen.
My second best team, I have the Seahawks going 10-7, just a game back behind the 49ers. Have Seahawks losing week 2 at Detroit, week 4 at New York Giants, week 6 at Cincinnati, week 11 at LA, week 13 at Dallas, week 14 at San Francisco, and week 15 versus the Eagles. Similar to Jonathan, I think I'm a believer that Geno Smith will be able to replicate what he did last year, or at least close to it. And again, the Seahawks drafted very well. I mean, for gosh sakes, I'm not sure that anybody has as good of a wide receiver trio as the Seahawks do going into the season. Maybe the Bengals with Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase are a little bit better. But Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is a crazy trio. I'm sure Geno Smith is very excited to be able to have that core to throw to.
Yeah.
And they bolstered their defense as well. Pete Carroll, outside of his decision to run the ball on the 1-yard line, is a fantastic coach. And so I see the Seahawks being able to have a pretty solid season again this next year. 10-7. I'll have to look at the entire league that I've predicted out, but that should be good enough to get them into the wild card. They're definitely going to be a good team. Not sure I see them making a deep postseason run or anything, but they'll definitely be competitive next year.
Yeah, for sure. Now onto my third best team in the league, and I am strongly pivoting with this declaration from what my original bet was in this division ranking, because my first round of this, I actually had the Rams as the best team in the league, and clearly I did not do enough research, because it has become so clear to me that even the Cardinals are better. I do have the Cardinals still as a very much losing team, as well as just a tough schedule to overcome, and I think that they're going to eat a lot of losses early on, with Kyler Murray more than likely sitting for part of the season. So the only real win that I have before I think Kyler Murray might return is against Washington, who is going to be fielding a Sam Howell in his second ever game. Hopefully they're fielding Sam Howell. If not, then that's even more clear of a win for me. But and then later in the season, the only other 5 wins to bring them to 6-11 I have are against the Seahawks, Falcons, Texans, Rams, and 49ers. So one of each for within the division, which is really impressive, I think, for this team. I would think that would give them a lot of hope for their future if they saw that happen. But then outside of the division, just weak teams that they're able to overcome. So, 6-11 record, obviously missing playoffs. Just not a lot of hope unless Kyler is able to sort of get back quickly. And also, this team is able to prove a couple of people wrong, because even outside of Kyler Murray, especially their defense is not very well equipped to handle either pass rush or run defense. I think their offense is a little underrated, but not enough to overcome it.
And then for my third place team in the division, also going 6-11, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are not going to be fantastic this next season. As much as I like Matthew Stafford, I think his time has kind of gone past. I'm glad he was able to win a Super Bowl, but with his back issues, I just don't see it there. That team is also getting old, so I don't see them being a contender this next season or anytime soon. I have them beating the 49ers in week 2, mainly because I think the 49ers will take some time to figure out the quarterback situation. Have them beating the Colts in week 4, Cardinals in week 6, Steelers in week 7, Seahawks in week 11, and Commanders in week 15 to round out their 6 wins. They'll be a bottom tier team in the NFC this season once again. So there you have it.
Yeah, Rams do not look good. I mean, the few pieces that they have left on defense are old as hell. And the only piece that they really have, or they have Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, which is the only reason I'm giving them any wins this year at all. But not enough to overcome most. I have them as just a 3-win team, splitting against San Francisco and against Arizona, and then taking a win early in the season as well against a rookie quarterback with mostly rookie core in the Colts. A couple of like surprising losses probably to some people against the Packers, the Giants, maybe even the Saints and the Commanders you might call surprising losses, but I think this team is impressively weak and hoping to be carried by a 36-year-old Matthew Stafford. Or did I aim too young?
I aim too old, actually. Yeah, and again, we have the same record.
35, yeah.
We have the same records for our 4th place team, but I have the Cardinals going, what is that, 3-14? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have zero faith in the Cardinals for this upcoming season. For my schedule prediction, I don't have them picking up their first win until week 10 against the Falcons, and then I have them beating the Rams for their 1 division win in week 12, and then getting their last win in week 16 against the Bears. The Cardinals, to me, have just been... There's so many things that are just screaming rebuilds. In the draft this year, I mean, they traded back multiple times to acquire more picks in future drafts, which is a rebuild team move. Them cutting DeAndre Hopkins after the point where you can cut somebody and not have to pay their salary is a rebuild move. They don't want him on the roster. And who knows? I mean, there could have been locker room issues there. It seemed like D-Hop wasn't a great fit in Arizona, but they're still essentially paying him to go play somewhere else this year. And you can fudge the cap also, but still, they don't have him on the team this year, which is leaving the Cardinals in a place where they don't have a wide receiver 1. I guess Hollywood Brown would probably be their wide receiver 1, and he's good, but at the same time, there's going to be some competition there because no one really knows exactly how that's going to shake out. And then the final thing with Kyler Murray is coming off an ACL tear for a quarterback who uses his legs as much as Kyler Murray does. That is something that the Cardinals are not going to want to rush. Most people are saying that he probably won't be back to like week 5, week 6 at this point. But if the Cardinals have any hesitancy whatsoever, there is no reason for them to try and bring him back until he is 110%. And in my mind, I could totally see them this season sitting Kyler Murray is what I foresee happening, is them getting into week 7, week 8, week 9, him still not being 110%. And by that point, just saying, we're not going to make playoffs. Let's give him a year to rehab that leg, make sure he comes back next season fully ready to go. So in my mind, I think the Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. At the end of our last episode, I said they'll go 0-17. Obviously, I'm not picking that because that very few teams are able to pull that off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not sure I'd be shocked. So I think they're going to be atrocious this year. I don't think they have a good enough offense to support their backup quarterback to be able to win games. Their defense is definitely not good to carry a backup quarterback to win games. So
I think even if Kyler Murray sits the whole year, I would be surprised if they went 0-17. They are. I mean, the offense still has James Conner, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, Trey McBride, Zach Ertz, who I do believe in their ability to produce on offense. Colt McCoy will be able to get them the ball when he needs to, and a passable defense. No real strong, no strong pass rush. No major strength of the defense. Decent secondary, but they are mostly just an okay team, and their season it starts and ends with the health and ability of Kyler Murray. So
I think another big factor here too is that they're going to have a first-year head coach. We've seen it a lot. First-year head coaches oftentimes don't have the mindset to push through adversity, and they're going to face some freaking adversity this season missing Kyler.
That's fair.
And so in my mind, I don't think the Rams will be good either, but I trust Sean McVay far more than I don't even know the name of the Cardinals head coach. I trust Sean McVay far more than I do this new guy coming in to a building and a team which has been labeled to have the worst team experience in the NFL, has a mess of a front office, seemingly has horrible team chemistry.
Yeah.
I just think there's so many factors going against the Cardinals this year. I just have zero faith in them. And shit, for all we know, Kyler Murray could be skipping rehab to go play Warzone. So,
yeah, I mean, it's Jonathan Gannon, their head coach, defensive-minded guy who should be able to. He came from the Eagles, should be able to boost them a little bit on the defensive end, but that's not their biggest concern right now. They just need to be able to put up points on the board, and time will tell whether or not the new offensive coordinator will be able to do that for them. He was the QB coach of the Browns, and a lot of questions in the coaching staff, a lot of questions on the team. I tend to lean slightly positive to the answers to those questions, but again, it all hinges on Kyler.
I like rooting against the Cardinals, so they're gonna suck.
Fair. I mean, I like rooting against the Seahawks, and I have them as the best in the division, so I don't know where that leaves me.
All right, with that, though, we'll transition over to our final segment of the day, our 100 units and 10,000 to 1 betting segment. So, Jonathan, kick us off with your 100 units bet of the week.
Yeah, like I said earlier in this podcast, I think that the Nuggets loss has benefited bettors a little bit. Unfortunately, at the time of the podcast, the odds have gone down for Nuggets money line. They were a little bit better yesterday after the game, but right now I'm still taking it. Nuggets money line at minus 142. I'll do a full unit on that.
Yeah, and did my goat and dick of the week as baseball, so I'll do a baseball bet as well. I'm gonna go for my 100 units. I'm taking Mets money line over the Braves for tomorrow night. I'm at plus 136. I'll do a half unit on that. I like the pitching matchup in that game. The Mets also tend to play great in Atlanta for whatever frickin' reason, so I'll take that one.
Yeah. And then for the 10,001 bet for me, I'm looking for a big game from Jamal Murray, sort of to try and inspire the rest of his offense, the rest of these role players who have been sort of floundering. I think that he will take that upon his shoulders with the sort of, I mean, he gets a lot of praise for this in Denver, but not a lot of people outside of Denver have heard about how much he sort of reflects Mamba mentality of put it on me, man. Laser focus all the time, just stone cold killer. And so I'm going to have him get a triple double in this game. Just absolute hound on the boards and also a bit of a distributor. Take the Nuggets money line, because if we lose with Jamal getting a triple double, then what the hell are we doing? And then, in fact, I'm going to even partner this with Jokic succeeds in igniting the Nuggets offense. Therefore, Jokic scores less than 23.5 points. All in, that is plus 37,332. I'm just putting the quarter unit on that because, of course, our betting segment ends as soon as one of us hits one of these.
For my 10,000 to 1, kind of similar line of thinking of Jokic being able to back off a little bit because other guys on the team are going to step up. But I'm going to go with Nuggets money line. I am going to take KCP under 8.5 points because he's been floundering. I think other guys are going to step up, not him. Jokic under 27.5 points. Vincent over 3.5 assists. Bam under 8.5 rebounds, and Jimmy over 7.5 rebounds. That gives me plus 12,336. I'm putting a quarter of a unit down on that one.
All right. Yeah, I think that KCP under there, I don't love that one for this. I think that he will sort of wake up a little bit and try and step up in this. I have a couple of those Murray assists going to him, but overall, not a bad bet.
Well, that concludes it for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, Jonathan, take us out with a bold old take here.
The San Francisco 49ers will win less than 5 games next year.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.